Hello, Link friends and Marines from around the world. Welcome to episode 1 of the Linkcentric show. My name is Link Speaker.
And my name is Gemini Link.
And we are your hosts. Our goal with the Linkcentric show is to create an avenue for the Chainlink community to learn, interact, grow, and digest breaking news, interviews, and price action. We will record an episode every Thursday and release our edited version on Sundays.
Each of our episodes will be unique, fun, and exciting. Some episodes will have guests and friends from the Chainlink community and staff who want to share some words. We will also be inviting special guests from the crypto community to share ideas and knowledge with our listeners.
For our first episode, we wanted to break down what we think is one of the most important and well-written articles in the Chainlink community, and written nonetheless from a community member itself. The title says it all: Chainlink, the missing piece in the God protocol, written on October 29th, 2018, just 2 years ago. In this article, there's a lot of technical terms, but we'll try our best to break it down for all of you. Now, our show is not going to break down the beginning of the crypto space, so we're kind of expecting you to at least have a little bit of knowledge on Bitcoin, kind of past booms and tech. But we're really going to focus, obviously, as the name says, Linkcentric, on Chainlink. Now, let's dive right into the article. Our first part of the article kind of goes over, decentralized, centralized, and distributed portions. And where we'd like to start is in 1997, Nick Szabo, is that how you pronounce that name?
Nick Szabo?
Szabo, yeah, Szabo.
I don't.
He was a technical pioneer who coined the term smart contracts. And he wrote an article in which he describes what he refers to as the God protocol, kind of where we all got this amazing term, the missing piece in the God protocol. And he states here, imagine the ideal protocol. It would have the most trustworthy third party imaginable, a deity who's on everyone's side. All parties would send their inputs to God. God would reliably determine the results and return the outputs. God being the ultimate confessional discretion. No party would learn anything more about other parties and inputs than they would learn from their own inputs and outputs. Wow.
Yeah, beautiful.
So, Gemini, what is your take? I mean, that's a mouthful, and that's huge. Written in 1997, 23 years ago.
Personally, I think Nick was onto something back in the day, in 1997, to even have this idea of technology and have the mindset for that. And with his what he states, I actually believe it's a beautiful way of writing it and putting it. With God, obviously with God, is obviously referring to it as all-knowing, all-trusting, and a trustless being, which is unbiased, where two parties can input what they want and they won't learn any more than they need to, and they get the output they need as well. So it's just a fair and trustworthy, I guess, system which he has thought about.
And I think the big thing here for me when I was reading this is it's trustless. No one has to worry about the info or the information it's getting from one party, because it is a trustless system that is honestly perfect, right? And that's kind of what it's describing here. And kind of moving on to our next point, Bitcoin brought the first form of trustless functionality, which brought the peer-to-peer payment system with its own native digital currency. But no simple third party could siphon off value from the transaction minus a small transaction fee for processing, which was substantially, and still is today, substantially cheaper than conventional methods. Imagine sending a wire transfer. It used to cost $35,
yeah,
right? And then you'd have to pay a bank transfer fee of XYZ, and then if it bounced, you'd have to pay more fees. He's talking back in 1997 about a revolutionary technology, and we're here now.
Yeah,
and it's Chainlink.
Exactly. And like I said, Bitcoin, even from the 1997, it took many years for Bitcoin to even get introduced to the market. It was when was it? 2009 maybe was introduced, or Yeah,
2008.
2008, yep. And then and that's 12 years and
yep,
if I'm right, 9 months from that date from today. So and now the next step is obviously a Chainlink, which is covering these issues right now, which we will cover in a little bit later on in the episode.
Well, one thing I think would be important for all of the listeners here is, why is a decentralized, centralized, distributed, and if you guys are following along on the article with us, you can see the beautiful work that they've created here for you, where it kind of shows the differences between decentralized, centralized, and distributed. As you noticed in the picture, centralized. Think about centralized being your standard banking systems, your standard websites. They have one point of attack for hackers, right? They know where to attack. They know exactly where to get your information, your social security, if that system holds that information. It's all centralized in a centralized system, right? That in the key right there is the root of the majority of the fraud that you see in systems, the majority of hacking issues. And then you move to what DeFi, decentralized, right? DeFi finance is wanting to become, and that is your picture B, right? You have nodes distributed, no longer centralized, and so hackers now have to hack multiple computers simultaneously to be able to obtain that sort of information. And then if you guys go to centralized, or the picture C, distributed is where we are moving in the future. And as the photo looks, it's information completely, and it's not even just information, but it's a lot of different things completely distributed throughout an entire network of nodes, right? And so your issue with old technology is centralization, and the new revolution that we are covering here, that Chainlink is powering, is wanting to go to decentralized and eventually distributed. So I thought it was a little important for everybody to understand those differences. Now, while Bitcoin paved the way for blockchain, 6 years later, Ethereum would introduce the next layer of the God protocol, which is smart contracts, right? When Ethereum had their smart contracts and they came out, that's back in 2017. That's when we saw the huge spike to over $1,000. And it was just on the release of this technology, right? And smart contracts are virtually the same as current legal agreements, except they're digitized into code and arbitrated by a trustless third party, i.e. the blockchain, right? They allow anything of value to be transacted and for transactions to have instructional parameters. This has meant that blockchains with smart contract capabilities could now digitize hard assets, transfer ownership of those digital assets, set conditions for the transfer of those assets, and record all transactions in an immutable shared ledger. Now, that's a mouthful, but Jim and I, you want to kind of break it down on how you kind of read and broke down these few paragraphs?
I mean, for me, I was focusing a lot on with what you were saying about the decentralization and the centralization. Another thing I want to add to that is obviously when there's a lot of companies that are centralized, easily hackable and locatable to one point. But the other part is there's a lot of lack of transparency and accountability when it comes to problems. They tend to move away from sharing and being open with what they are trying to offer and what they're trying to share. And also when there is a problem within this, it's they do try and blame it on others. Also, when it comes to large centralized platforms on social media, they do often abuse the users and abuse the data that is available to them. So I do believe the next step is decentralization in the foreseeable future, which is already as clear as possible now with the world that we're in, to be very important. because everyone wants to trust, the company they're with, and also with the assets that they're using and the software that they're using. So I believe with Chainlink, it is the next big thing that's going to come after Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Chainlink will be the final, industrial revolution, which will help push this forward.
Agreed, 100% agreed. And I love what you were talking about in this last little section here as far as transparency. And for people that don't understand the blockchain itself, there's a lot of amazing articles out there. You guys are welcome to join our Discord server, and I can send some of those to you. But one of the big things is that the blockchain is completely and totally transparent. Everyone on the blockchain can see everything that happens on the blockchain. And so it allows for a level of transparency that is not allowed or possible in centralized networks, right? And that's huge for the last portion of this paragraph that we're talking about, which it talks about blockchains with smart contract capabilities could now digitize hard assets. Imagine that alone. Imagine the huge implications that has, right? You can create a digital hard asset that allows for the transfer of ownership of those digital assets, set on conditions for the transfer of those assets. You can set whatever sort of condition you want, like this person needs to pay me first before it's transferred, right? And so that alone right there eliminates fraud, right? You can't fraud something that is on the blockchain for everyone to see in a decentralized manner, right? And it records all transactions in a shared ledger that everyone can see. That is huge.
And to add to that as well, another problem I think is the lack of efficiency as well. With the connections between isolated systems, they usually do have to spend a lot of money on intermediate middlemen, to get the security for one, and also to get the reliability, which is another problem. You have to be able to trust and rely on the people you are getting in the middle to transfer this data, and the assets. So this is where Chainlink is growing, and as clear with the integrations, which we'll discuss a little bit later, which are ever growing, to say the least. They are growing and they are building trust, which is another big thing right now for us.
Agreed. So, this is kind of more of a high level overview, guys, of the first portion of the article. But kind of the bullet point is, centralized bad, decentralized and distributed is the future, and very, very secure. That's to summarize the first portion, and to move on to our next point. Who would use this, right? Why do Gemini and I think so highly of Chainlink? Why do we think that this is, as so many others that have done the research, the key to the industrial revolution that's coming? And the amount of possible use cases that this technology opens up is vast. And honestly, we don't even know the current moment, considering the novelty of all the use cases. We're discovering more and more and more use cases for this every day. And as you were talking about, Gemini, the ever increasing amount of integrations is showing that the world is ready for this technology. And it's just to cover a few here, just a few that the article covers is digital identity, record keeping, securities, derivatives, trade finances, mortgages, supply chain, land title ownership, auto insurance, and clinical trials. Right now, that's a lot of market cap and market capability right there in those industries alone. I used to be a real estate agent myself, and so the mortgages portion, right, would be huge, right? Mortgage companies alone, they have to verify your income. They have to verify your credit score. They have to verify multiple different things before they're going to lend you massive amounts of money, right? And then they have to do it. Then they have to do a check before you, 2 days prior to closing. to make sure that you're still employed. Imagine if that would all be on the blockchain, right? All on the blockchain, all powered by the Oracle of Chainlink, which is 100% reliable with the information they're giving you. And that's just one segment, right? We're talking about supply chain. We're talking about land title ownership, right? Title searches for companies. There's whole middlemen companies that thrive off of doing searches that a decentralized and distributed network powered by a trustless Oracle would allow for those companies basically to not exist anymore, right? Because this system would power that. What's your thought process on just the start of the amount of industries we could influence with Chainlink?
Yeah, these honestly ever-ending businesses and companies and softwares and different, off-chain, I'd say, or even real-life companies that could benefit from this to get the data in a more reliable and decentralized way, which will also save them from, like you said in the previous comments, about hacking, and also it will prevent and lower costs for one, make it a lot cheaper for these people.
A lot of these companies spend millions. Some of the big white labels ones that we're talking about, I'm sure, have spent upwards of hundreds of millions of dollars for middleman software that Chainlink solves, right? Making sure, hey, let's verify the information that we're getting from so and so let's hire this department of people, or let's pay us our software engineering team X dollars, or this is our budget for developing this level of software to verify middlemen. That Chainlink solves it all, right? It allows a trustless system, and I think as we start really moving into the future and moving into where tech is going to be a part of our everyday lives even more than it already is, something like this is going to be required in almost every single industry that has connection to the internet, right?
Yeah, and not only that, it's gonna stop that time that is very precious of searching for someone that is trustworthy. So it'll be a single point of connection, which will grow and honestly just get better and better in the time. And obviously when more people adopt it, it will become a lot cheaper for people to use the system, I guess.
Agreed. 100% agreed. So as we're continuing to digest this article, and explain why we are making a entire show based around Chainlink, I think it's really important to talk about the mechanics, kind of more along the lines of examples, give people examples of what this technology can do, and kind of break it down for everyone. So due to the mechanics of the consensus mechanisms underpinning blockchain technology, blockchains lack the ability to trustlessly connect with off-chain resources, meaning they cannot interact with the outside world without sacrificing their features of decentralization. Basically meaning that blockchains independently operate fantastically, but together they have issues, because when you connect to blockchains, there's a single point that is a critical point of failure, that if that point is compromised, then they can no longer trust that data, right? And so basically, the moment a smart contract receives data from a single website, the advantages of smart contracts and blockchain, such as a trustless decentralization and having no middlemen, are completely lost. The reason being is that intentionally or unintentionally, this is the single point of connection that can influence the contract, as we were just talking about, right? So it creates a single point of attack for hackers, which is the entire point of the DeFi revolution, right? Is to eliminate that. So what's your thought process on this information, Gemini?
I mean, with that, with what we said previously about the single point, it was more to the point that they won't have to search throughout all these companies. They will have a single point, but it is decentralized, so it isn't hackable. So what I was saying is, like, basically they will be able to, trust Chainlink, and they won't have to rummage through all the reviews and find someone who is trustworthy.
Yeah, we kind of talked about prior before entering into the kind of explaining that portion, and then we kind of like almost backtracked a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we were so excited about the information we were about to talk about. We talked about it anyways.
Yeah. This is all part of it again.
If someone enters into a smart contract with an insurance company, but the insurance company owns the communication line between the smart contract and the data it needs because they built the oracle, they own the oracle.
Yeah.
The customer still has to trust, right? We're talking about trust again, still has to trust that the insurance company won't tamper with the communication line and cheat them, change data, change something, right? And it will be hard to achieve full realization of a trustless third party without tamper-proof lines of communication between the smart contracts and off-chain resources, right? And so this is saying right here that there is massive value in just the insurance industry, right? And not even to mention some of the other ones we've talked about, talking about a real need. And so this kind of breaks down the example here that they give in the article. I love it. Says, example, company A manufactures goods that are then shipped to company B, a retail store. The two companies create a smart contract where the retailer agrees to pay the manufacturer once the goods are delivered. When the goods arrive, the retailer signs for them using an e-signature, which has an API that can be used as an input for the smart contract. This input is used to trigger an output in the form of a payment in the retailer's bank account to the manufacturer's bank account. That's huge, right? Huge. Because, I mean, think about that on just the example in general. Imagine you are a store owner and you order, say, 100 pounds of meat, right? And you pay for it because you ordered it, right? And it gets there and it's all rotten, right? And now you have to go back to the company. You already paid them. You got to try to get a refund. You got to try and do everything else, right? With this, it eliminates all of that. The smart contract, it's trustless between both. If both of them is set an agreed upon thing, hey, I'm going to ship this to you. You're going to pay me when it gets there. He signs when it gets there because he's looked at the meat and it's good. Then it automatically sends the payment because it's all locked in the smart contract. It creates a system that honestly removes so much work and middleman space, right? And that is just one example of a smart contract. So it's this enhanced level of connectivity brings a whole new level of functionality to smart contracts. Just like a computer with no internet connection has limited capabilities, so too do smart contract platforms that cannot connect to outside functions. Chainlink, this is one of the coolest sentences in the entire article. Chainlink acts as the internet for smart contracts, allowing connectivity between almost everything. Wow. Just that sentence alone. Chainlink acts as the internet for smart contracts, allowing connectivity between almost everything. That's huge. If I had to summarize, if I had to pick one sentence out of this entire article that makes me so excited for Chainlink, and why we made an entire show based around Chainlink and how Chainlink affects the crypto community, is that one sentence right there. And it makes you wonder, wow, like if some of you guys are listening here and you didn't fully understand the article, you're trying to listen to this to kind of break it down, kind of this might even be next year, 2021, 2022 or something, and this is your first real dip into Chainlink. That sentence right there is what you are buying into, is the internet for smart contracts, allowing for connection between everything. And when it says almost everything, it means almost everything, right? We're talking about a connection between decentralized, centralized networks. So your Wells Fargo bank account to your to the crypto network. We're talking about the connection between companies that have centralized ledgers and want to come onto the blockchain. Everything.
Chainlink acts as the internet for smart contracts, allowing connectivity between almost everything. It's just so powerful, man, when you read that, isn't it? Yeah, not to mention like anything that's randomness and polls, and also even weather, and also just data feeds from price triggers to information fed back, and this is pretty much instant as well. So
elections, voting, right? That's a huge thing, right? We're next week is one of the most polarizing elections the United States has ever happened, and the massive thing that they've been talking about is mail-in voting, right? What would happen if we were to put all of our voting system worldwide on a trustless system that has no opportunity anywhere in its systems to malfunction, and you cannot manipulate it without the entire blockchain seeing it, right? All powered by Chainlink. And so that is so exciting, very, very exciting. And so kind of the next portion of our podcast, we kind of try to do the high level overview for everyone for smart contracts, kind of what Chainlink is doing. And now you might be wondering okay, so Chainlink's doing cool things, they have cool tech, but are people using them? Are companies interested in using them? Well, yes, and quite a lot of them. With over 300 current integrations, over 300 and more almost every day. Jim and I, are you watching the integration list on Twitter? You remember earlier in the year where we were really excited when it was one a week or one every couple weeks, right? And then now we're seeing multiple a day, right? And so it's ramping up. In order for a trustless Oracle system to work, the more companies that are integrated, that partner with Chainlink, the more everyone else will want to partner with Chainlink, right? And so here's some partnerships. We want to break down some big partnerships for you guys that kind of just highlight some of the possibilities. One of them is the Accord Project, which is an open source nonprofit initiative working to transform contract management and contract automation by digitizing contracts, right? So it wants to take the contracts, put them on the blockchain, put them out into this space. And Accord is setting the developmental standards for construction of legal smart contracts, and the Chainlink is providing Oracle services to them. They have picked Chainlink as their Oracle. Accord has some of the biggest law firms in the world working with them, such as Baker McKenzie, K&L Gates, and Allen and Overy, along with major technological and financial firms such as IBM, Hyperledger, and APPG, which is a part of the UK government, right? Huge partnership, and that's just one of them. Open Law is another one. They're building technology to stack to help power generation of smart legal agreements. They're aiming very similar to Accord and building the developmental standards for the construction of the legal smart contracts. But Chainlink is also providing Oracle services to them, and their aim seems to be more focused around developing legal standards on open blockchains, whereas Accord seems to be focused on permissioned blockchains, right? So it's a little bit different. Open blockchains meaning anyone can be on them, right? And then permission ones is more of the Accord project. Now, one really important piece is that Open Law is owned by Consensus. Open Law is also recently partnered with Rocket Lawyer, an online consumer law company with tens and tens of thousands of customers to exploit the benefits of smart contracts. So we're talking about some of the largest law firms in the world are using Chainlink as their Oracle. Massive, right? And then here's the big boy one. This is one of the largest partnerships to date, and probably for a very long time, honestly. SWIFT. So the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication, that's a mouthful, or otherwise known as SWIFT, provides a network that enables financial institutions worldwide to send and receive information about financial transactions in a secure, standardized, and reliable environment. While there has been no official announcement on SWIFT and their partnership with Link, it is known, such as being displayed on the Chainlink website and being confirmed by the Chainlink team, that Chainlink is working on a smart Oracle for SWIFT that coincides with the fact that Chainlink did 2 successful proof of concepts for SWIFT at their annual conference. wherein created and executed a smart bond. This smart bond and smart contract, it took the interest rates of 5 banks, aggregated them into a single rate, and used that rate to make a payment that translated into Swift payment message. Swift handles the interbank payments of over 11,000 banks in its network, right? So people are talking about, hey, we have to do a lot of work for Chainlink to reach a price valuation of a certain point, right? And that there's too many coins in the world, right? Tokenomics, right? There's too many coins. Well, if we just look at some of the partnerships announced in our first really full year, 11,000 banks, some of the largest law firms in the world, over 300 integrations, including Polkadot, Tezos, Synthetics, Web38, and more. And they've announced partnership with enterprises such as Google, Oracle, and Microsoft. And that's just the start. That's just the beginning. Well, what's kind of this is a lot of information. Some of these people may not understand how big some of these companies are. What's your take on this?
Personally, with the banks, as it being a centralized kind of platform, although that is the case, I do love the fact that they are integrating with Swift. It opens up so much, integrating with Swift, but there's no official announcement like you were saying. But on the talks, for integrating with Swift, not only that, with PayPal as well, which is just a recent release where they are allowing crypto. I'm sure they've got over 326 million users on there. So eventually in the future, we could even partnership with PayPal, which would be huge as well. Imagine if Chainlink was the Oracle Networks provider for the data transfer.
Who else are they going to pick?
Yeah, there's not anyone who is as reliable,
Exactly. And with the partnership with Swift, well, one thing that I'd love to bring up. There's a video online. I'm sure that you guys can find it on our Discord server and our resources channel as well for any of the listeners, that talks about, it doesn't even talk about it. It's Sergey, the CEO of Chainlink. He's literally sitting at the family table with some of the largest heads in the world, right? And Swift is there, and they're talking about how this is at the World Economic Forum, how much they're looking forward to integrating Chainlink, and how much that this technology is revolutionary, right? That's huge alone, right? Just the fact that he was at the family table, and just the fact that they were excited for it, should show something, right? The integration level into the crypto DeFi space is at a very alarming rate. Alarming is not really the right word, but very fast rate.
Exciting is a good word. And not only that, when you actually watch and listen to Sergey speak, it gives you so much confidence and faith in the project. Me personally, I am going from vibes and energies from listening to him and doing my own research, of course. And the more I watch and listen to Sergey speak, the more faith and great energies I get from him. It gives me a lot of hope and excitement for the future.
I agree 100% with that, Gemini. And back when I was working in the startup space out in California, and would go to some of the blockchain conferences, you got to meet a lot of different CEOs. A lot of startup CEOs, and none of them act like Sergey does. A lot of them are cocky. They kind of walk with a chip on their shoulder. Some of them, they're more of the business side, not the developer. They don't understand the development side. When Sergey talks, he oozes, professionalism, oozes. He knows what he's doing, and he's very, very professional. And one thing we don't have listed here on our blueprint, and now we're kind of talking about the team. The team that Chainlink has is top notch. They have one of the best teams as far as The developers now with Ari Jules joining their team, and the purchase of Deco, which allows basically you don't have to give your personal information to your third party who's actually wanting to know the information. Like for an example, to just break down Deco in a quick manner because it's huge. Imagine you needed to enter a website and needed to verify that you were 21 years old to enter the website. With Deco, using Chainlink, right? Using the Chainlink Oracle system, they would just give a thumbs up, right? That you were over 21. That's it. Verifies that you are now 21. Does not give your information to a centralized network, right? Doesn't give your birth date. Doesn't give your social security or any of that information to that centralized network. It just verifies it instantly through. That's huge, right? And Ari Jules, that edition, the marketing team, their business development team, it's just all top notch. And that's why I think they've had the success with the amount of integrations that they have already, is because of the team and how well that they're doing. So that kind of covers the integrations portion, talks about that portion. One of the things that you and I are really excited about, obviously, starting this podcast and starting this show, is the community.
Yeah, the community. Well, as you can probably tell, I am very community orientated. From hearing you speak in this episode, I can see you are very tech orientated, which is perfect. We need to have a little bit of balance. There'll be a lot of people who are listening to this and thinking, what are they talking about? Some people may not understand. I personally am still learning the technology side to it. Each and every single day I'm doing research. But one of the amazing factors which I think about Chainlink is the community we do have on Twitter, which is growing every single day. We currently have, I think, 259k Chainlink accounts and growing. And not only that, ever since I did join Twitter, all I have received is love, support, and memes, and Pepe the Frog pictures, which I love. I'm not gonna lie, it is a big passion for me, and it is something that drove me into buying into Chainlink in the first place. And then later on, I've realized how amazing the technology is, how amazing the team is, and also from the Link community, how much they do share with each other openly and are willing to help each other. I've not felt a connection like this with the community online, since I was probably when I was a young kid playing online games. I do believe we have the best and most active community on Twitter. I really do. I did a post recently, not recently, but a while ago, for someone to show me a better community, and still not seen anyone who can compete with this. I really haven't.
Isn't it beautiful? Like the amount of awesome people that we have, and not even just on Twitter, Facebook, most social media platforms that love this project and that are supportive is crazy, and that's how we met was through Twitter. You want to tell them that story?
Yeah, as probably a lot of you already know, I do have a passion for art, and I have a passion for creating photos for people out of the love of my heart, and to expand my knowledge on graphic design, and just to give something back to the community, just because of the love I have received from you guys. And I was just randomly doing pictures one day. I don't even know where I got this idea to make pictures from in the first place. It was just a sign, a message from whatever.
It wasn't even just pictures. You were making profile photos, right?
Yeah, profile photos for the Link community, the Link friends, the Link Marines. Everyone who wanted one would approach me, direct message me, and I'd just work my magic.
And guys, not to interrupt you and I, but one of the cool things that I saw too is he was doing it for free. Like I remember thinking, I'm like, what is this guy offering his services of creating these awesome Pepe the Frog profile photos, and he's doing it for free. I was like, this is a cool dude.
Yeah, because in life, you do have to really give back to people and offer what you can. And not only that, if it makes you feel good, then you don't need money for this. Things will come back to you 10 times in different kind of ways. And this comes to show, from me giving back to the community and me making pictures with people and connecting and networking, it brought you into my life, which has been a blessing in itself as well, you know.
Thank you, my friend. You as well.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, it opens up opportunities for this podcast and for the future, and for us to grow, and for us to connect, and just to learn more and more about each other. And in the future, it would be amazing to invite some friends that I've already connected with on the community to share their knowledge, views, and energies on our future podcast. You know, there is many people that I think would give great value and great views on their stories as well. You know, because everyone has their own story, and I think the more that we learn from each other, the more that we're going to grow as a community as well.
Agreed. 100%. And to touch on the community portion, this is just one massive portion of why Gemini and I think, and well, to be frank, many others think that this Chainlink is such an amazing unicorn that is going to change the world, right? It has groundbreaking tech. It has the best of the best team that you could possibly try and form as a company, right? It has integration after integration being announced daily, and now we're at the end of October, entering into November, and we're talking about multiple integrations a day. And the community continues to support and to grow and to just show our true colors of how much we love this project, right? And so, kind of in conclusion here, at the entering into the end of our first episode, I'd love to kind of start this portion of it with a quote, and it says, "If anyone solves oracles, it's probably worth more than crypto." And that's from Richard Hart, an early Bitcoin investor, right? Talking about a problem that everyone knew was going to be an issue when we started, right? So how do we have these blockchains that are secure, that are independent, and they operate really well by themselves, and we also have all of these centralized banks and everything else that run on their own systems? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to transfer in a trustless, seamless manner between all of this, right? He saw this and knew this, and he says, if anyone solves oracles, it's probably worth more than crypto. If we look right now, on October 29th, before the bull run that is coming up of next year, currently the market cap for all of crypto is at $404,163,585,186, right? And so you have here a early Bitcoin investor that says, if anyone solves oracles, it's probably worth more than crypto, right? And so more than crypto right now is worth 404 billion. Now we have a market cap of Chainlink of right about 4 billion. So we have $400 billion to go just currently, just to reach more than crypto currently. And I don't think that's very hard to imagine when you talk about some of the integrations and some of the major companies that we've been talking about, right? And so taking everything into account, it's hard not to get excited about how successful Chainlink network could do to revolutionize the smart contract space. If Ethereum can exceed a 100 billion market cap based on tokenization, crowdfunding, and a simple smart contract functionality, then the possibilities brought about by Chainlink are profound, given they provide a working bridge from legacy, we're talking about, centralized old systems, right, that we use every day currently, systems, to blockchains, and provide the most secure medium of exchange between data and smart contracts. This doesn't even take into account their medium to long-term goals of providing scaling and privacy solutions for smart contracts using TEEs. Now, that's a mouthful and a lot, and I'm sure there's some of the Bitcoin maximalists out there and some of the other people not fully understanding what Chainlink is yet, that thinking more than all of crypto, the successful oracle. Well, do your research and do a deep dive into this article, and I think you guys will see what we're talking about. There's a real possibility that Chainlink could ignite this next bull run that we're entering into at the end of this year, beginning of next, or in all of next year, given that it opens up a whole new level of possible functionality for dApps using smart contracts. So from a business perspective, right, companies will save tons of money by not having to make expenditures on overhead, such as manual entry of data, human arbitration of contracts like you and I were talking about, Jim and I, right? And middlemen services used to establish trust. I mean, they spend so much money on that. And now with Chainlink, there is an option to do it for a fraction of the cost, right? Now, from a customer perspective, people won't have to rely on good faith of companies when entering into agreements with them, since the blockchain is the ultimate arbitrator of how a contract is to be executed, right? Wouldn't it be nice not to have to worry about, hey, is my information going to get hacked, or hey, is this company actually doing something the right way, or hey, imagine this. You enter into a store and you want to know, hey, what's everyone else charging, right? I want to purchase this, and then now you have to trust them that this is the purchase price. Well, why not look at the blockchain and say, oh no, this is the price for everyone, right? And that's just one avenue.
Even for online, you know, right now when you're going on your exchanges and you say you're going to go and buy Link right now, and it says the price is whatever it is right now. I've not really seen it, but say it's $11.30 right now, and then as soon as you press your buy order, if something goes wrong within that network, which is very untrustworthy, and then you end up getting the price at $12.50 for some kind of stupid reason. You know, this is just one example of it. And they're also going towards, you know, randomness as well for people, where they can, for online gaming as well, they're making it so it's a lot fairer, a lot more trustworthy, because that's the problem right now. We are in this, especially in 2020, I think it's an eye opener to who you can and who you cannot trust, you know, and we really need someone and some kind of company who we can trust and who we can put our faith in with, just going forwards for 2020 and 2021, for the future of our lives and for our assets, you know. Agreed,
100% agreed. So to kind of touch on just a couple more things here before we end our conclusions. Honestly, the companies who opt in the article, you know, as you guys can tell, we're kind of reading through the article, but and kind of giving our own inputs on this. But I agree with this next phrase. The companies who opt towards giving up control in favor of decentralization will likely gain massive marketing advantages over companies that do not, because it showcases that they're allowed their customers that their willingness to allow trustless third parties to arbitrate, bringing much needed trust back into the business to consumer relationships, right? And it could be the game of who blinks first and gets in, right? Could you imagine what would happen if Microsoft, instead of using one of their other companies, says, hey, we're going to use this Oracle, and now all of our payment systems, all of our systems online are all now no longer hackable, and your payment information is secure, and we're not selling your data? Could you imagine how big of news that would be? And that's just one company. So I agree. It's whoever really starts focusing on this portion right here, giving control and transparency back to the consumers, is going to gain a lot of market share in their markets. And in the last paragraph of the article, it kind of goes over this. It says, if Chainlink reaches its full potential, it could complete the God protocol, perfecting the first trustless third party in world history. Wow. This is likely to obsolete many current blockchain projects, and the ramifications are bigger than most people understand. Klaus Schwab, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, founder and head of the World Economic Forum, described the phenomenon of decentralized trust in a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, in which he even mentioned smartcontract.com, which, if anyone doesn't know, that's what Sergey started Chainlink as. He started it at smartcontract.com. So, and he mentioned them by name. And have you seen the book cover, by the way?
The Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, have you seen the book cover?
Is that with the is it with the big cube that's been edited now, or the one before that?
It has the Chainlink logo over and over and over again, stacked on top of each other in an outwards manner. It's literally a book that's named The Fourth Industrial Revolution that has the Chainlink logo and mentions smart contract by name, right? This is the founder and head of the World Economic Forum, right? That's talking about Chainlink and talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And this guy knows what's happening. The World Economic Forum does not pick pump and dumps, does not pick companies that are not going to be successful. They've picked Airbnb, they've picked Twitter, they've picked some really huge companies that all become massively successful, and they picked Chainlink as the winner for the 2020 competition, and that's huge alone. And so with all of that being said, the choice is yours. Watch from the sidelines or take a risk on what could be one of the most valuable pieces of digital real estate heading into the future. Do your own research, understand the risk, but know that the life-changing investments don't come around all that often.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the community that you're going to be involved with does also not come around that often either. So even if you have that risk, at least you're going to have the support, and we're all going to be partying together in the future. We're all going to be on the same ship, or the same yacht, as you all know.
And for those of you that are new, this may be one of your first exposures to the Chainlink community. There is a meme that's going around that whenever Chainlink really moons and goes to the prices that we all think it can, we're gonna have a yacht party somewhere in the world, and I think Gemini and I might be one of the people organizing it, or I would love to. I think it would be very fun to organize that. So that's kind of the meme here. So in conclusion here, Chainlink is a company that has massive potential, is already integrating into the very fabric of the DeFi revolution, and is actually going to enable and empower the entire DeFi revolution moving forward. I think that's a really good summarization, and it has one of the coolest communities me and Gemini obviously have ever seen online.
Ever.
So that's our take on the God Protocol article. If you like this podcast, please like it, share it with your friends. Please join our Discord server. You can find the link online on both of our personal pages, and you can also find it in the comment sections in the YouTube video. Gemini, would you like to end off?
All I've got to say is I hope you did enjoy this. Obviously, I'm listening as well as much as you and learning just as much as a lot of you guys. I may not have put as much input as I really would like to, but I am going to thrive and learn and keep researching, keep growing, keep making pictures for you guys, keep connecting. So I have a different value to add to this podcast, which is going to grow in the future. So if I didn't make any mistakes during this podcast, I do apologize. Some of the information I may have said may have been a bit wrong, but I try my best to, try and decipher this as easily and understandably as you guys would like as well.
And that's the whole point. That's our whole point is to break down Chainlink for the community, for people that may not be as technical as some of the developers that understand the tech much more than we do.
Yeah, 100%. It's about learning together and just growing together, and also watching this moon together, because I really do feel it in my gut that this is a huge project, which in the near future is going to make a lot of friends very, very happy. And when this does happen, we're gonna be so powerful where we can all meet up together and literally discuss and talk and see each other in person. No more frog faces, but then you can meet the people you can meet the people who you've been seeing behind these screens, which I don't mind, to be honest. It's a beautiful thing to see the uniqueness of this community. There's some people who are going out there with personal names and identities, and then there's other people like myself who I prefer to go behind Gemini Link, and you can get to know me for me and my personality and not for who I am as a human. date of birth kind of name, you know. So I look forward to connecting with more people, growing and learning more is one of the biggest things from this, you know, and really educating, because if you're not learning and you're not learning anything new each day, then you're not living, you know. So it's great to push yourself and
Agreed.
Connect.
Well, everyone, we thank you so much for listening through to the end, and please join us next week as we break down another section of the Chainlink community. Thank you.